Everybody, happy Thursday. I wanted to come on today to talk about something that kind of irks me. I'm a little bit fired up today with it. So please mind my excitement a little bit on this one. But it's been said a few times, and it really bothers me when I hear it and when I hear other people say it, is that if somebody has lost somebody that they love and comments are being said where it's like, well, that person wasn't crying, so I wonder if they really cared about that person or if they really like miss that person or anything like that. And I really want to get people to understand that comments like that are just not things that we should be saying when people are grieving. And part of it is because grief is such a personal process for everybody. The way you grieve may not be the same way that I grieve, and the way that I grieve may not be the same way that my daughter grieves. And that is very, very important for all of us to understand. And so if you are the type of person that needs to cry for 5 days in order to deal with your grief, that's great on you, and that is your way of grieving. But don't judge me because I may not be crying all the time. And so there are different things that kind of play into how grief goes and how people react to grief. So some people are very private people. I'm a very private person when it comes to crying. I don't like to cry in front of people. So you would never see me outwardly crying. There are times where you might see it on like a live or something like that, as I've gotten kind of a little bit more comfortable with it. But it is something that I personally don't do a lot of, is crying in public. And so it could be said that I don't miss my husband because I'm not crying. And that is where my skin boils, is when people say things like this, because you can't judge somebody's actions to show that that is a reflection on whether or not that person meant anything to them or not. And as we all know, grief kind of comes and goes in waves. And so there will be times when that person might be crying privately at home, and then there'll be times when that person looks totally fine. And the key word is looks, because it's constantly in you, it's constantly with you, it's constantly there weighing heavy on you day in and day out. But what happens is that you start to live in this new normality of what your life is going to look like without that person there. And so you continue to have that grief with you, but maybe the way that you outwardly put that grief is not going to be necessarily in crying or crying all the time. And so we need to get people to stop saying things like that, because it can be very hurtful. And those thoughts are just not accurate thoughts as well when it comes to somebody who is grieving. There's also something where there's also like a piece where it's like anticipatory grief, which is what my family experienced with my husband. And so we knew that he was ill. We knew that there was a day that it was going to happen. And so there's that anticipation towards the grief that comes. And so you almost grieve the person through that whole anticipatory period. And then when it actually happens, it's kind of like you have closure. And so your reaction to that might be a little bit different. And so when somebody is not outwardly crying, it also can mean a lot of that sort of stuff. It never means that they didn't love that person. It never means that they are happy that that person passed away. It never means that they are not grieving. And those are the things that fire me up and has me fired up today about this whole conversation about grief and how people react to it. So again, it goes back to what I talked about the other day about how to support somebody who is going through grief. You want to just be supportive and don't pass any judgment, because if you are somebody who is crying all the time and you're seeing your friend or the person you love who's not crying all the time, don't pass judgment on that, because you don't know what they're going through inside. And we should never pass judgment on anybody, and we should never judge or say things like that person didn't love that person because they're not crying. So that's my rant for today. Just wanted to come on and rant a little bit because this was said to me a couple of times. It's been said to me through my grief process as well, and I'm pretty sure it's been said to you in your grief process. Know that if you are not crying, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to say. There's nothing wrong with you if you're not crying. It doesn't mean that you don't miss that person that is gone in your life. And so just know that, and really just shut the haters out. If that's what they are coming to say to you, just really create boundaries and make sure that you are protecting yourself and your heart and your mental health against people that are saying this sort of stuff to you. But they should never say it. And if you are somebody who is looking at somebody who is grieving and you're wondering why they're not crying, just know that it's different for everybody, and how you may react may not be the same way that they react. And you don't know what they are going through in private, and you don't know what they're going through inside that they're keeping a front up for, because they may not feel comfortable crying in public, or they may not have the energy anymore to cry. They may have cried all last night, and now when you see them, there's nothing left to cry anymore. And that happens. So just give people grace and don't pass any judgment. So hopefully everybody has a great day. I'm sorry for my rant. I would love to hear any of your comments or things that you have experienced. And biggest thing is, what is your biggest takeaway from this, so that you can reframe your thoughts and reframe how you speak about somebody who is going through grief. Hope everybody has a wonderful Thursday.